his salatu was salam, making Isa alayhi salatu was salam a God, which the early Christians they made this mistake. Where did this deviancy start from? It started from Paul. Paul, who was also known as Saul, he was a persecutor of the early followers of Isa alayhi salam. When persecuting the early followers of Isa alayhi salam, after Sayyiduna Isa alayhi salam had ascended to the heavens and according to Christian doctrine had been crucified, Saul claimed that on the way to Damascus, he was on his way to Damascus in order to retrieve some people from Damascus who were followers of Isa alayhi salam. On the way, it is claimed that he saw a vision of Isa alayhi salam, where he is addressed, and Isa alayhi salam supposedly says to him, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? Meaning, why do you persecute my followers? And Saul, when he was observed, he fell into prostration, and then a conversion took place. This individual, Paul, was the early founder of what is today known as Christianity, meaning the modern version of Christianity that we have was founded by Paul, who firstly Hellenized Christianity, made it a Hellenistic Greco-Roman religion, and likewise he was the one who is responsible for the content of what we know today as the New Testament, Paul. Additional to that, he was responsible also for the abolishment of the law, meaning there was law found in the Old Testament, people followed a law. Paul was the sole reason for why the early Christians, the followers of Isa alayhi salam, abandoned the law. And it's mentioned in the New Testament, in the book of Acts, for instance, in Acts 15, that Paul went to meet the elders in Jerusalem. The elders that are mentioned, the elders of the church in Jerusalem, is in reference to Peter, who is known as Saint Peter, and James the Just, who is the brother of Isa alayhi salam. These two were the elders of the church. They opposed Paul with regard to abolishing the law, things like circumcision. Circumcision, when someone adopts true Islam, they would be circumcised according to the old law, the Mosaic law. In Islam, it's optional, but optional for the new Muslim. But in the Mosaic law, the law that was revealed on Musa alayhi salam, it would be necessary for them to be circumcised. Paul abolished this. Additional to that, dietary laws were abolished. Why are dietary laws important? Dietary laws are important that when a person restrains himself from certain haram, when a person is told that these are the limitations of what you can eat, he learns self-restraint. Dietary laws teach us self-restraint. Otherwise, if you do not have self-restraint, a person becomes like those Chinese that you observe now with the disease virus spreading. If you look at the videos showing that the marketplaces where they sell anything and everything and eat anything and everything, where there is no self-restraint. So dietary laws were important, but Paul abolished the dietary laws. So the early Christians were permitted to eat swine and eat different things. This Paul was the one responsible for deifying Jesus, Sayyiduna Isa alayhi salam, making a God out of Isa alayhi salatu was salam. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to them that we come to a common word between us, the Allah na'buda illallah. First is that we do not worship except Allah. Second, wala nushrika bihi shay'an. And secondly, we do not associate with him anything. So the first law of the 10 commandments is that a person is not permitted to make an idol or a graven image and worship that graven image. This first law of the 10 commandments is abandoned and violated by Christians today. That in their churches they have pictures of Isa alayhi salam, they prostrate to a picture or a statue of Sayyiduna Isa alayhi salatu was salam, a violation of the very first command of the 10 commandments. So in a discussion with the Christian, a Catholic or a Protestant, the very first thing a Muslim should say is that you violate the first law, meaning which is the first law is that we cannot take graven images, we cannot make idols and associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So likewise in Hellenistic culture and Greco-Roman religions, mythological religions, they would, aside from ascribing sons to God, they would ascribe a wife to God. So they replaced the various wives that were ascribed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by Sayyiduna Maryam alayhi salam. This was all the invention of Paul, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, firstly we come to a common ground that we do not worship except Allah, we do not associate any partners with Him,